I think with more and more 3-on-3 leagues, to your point, popping up, not just on the professional level, not just on the entertainment side with the big three, right? Like, which is cool to watch. You're seeing former NBA players in these settings still hooping. But I think even at the grassroots level, like what you're trying to do, right? You're getting 3-on-3 leagues and exposure to younger players. It's growing, and I think it's going to kind of become what youth level basketball should essentially be, where we're teaching it and they're competing in a 3-on-3 setting for the application. And then as they grow, they're getting into the 5-on-5 scene. Maybe as they're getting into the 5-on-5 scene, they decide that 3-on-3 is still the road they want to go.
All right, so you've coached teams that have won gold medals, like I mentioned. What qualities do you think 3x3 basketball instills in players that make them successful on larger platforms like that?
So like on the platform, like playing for a gold medal, right?
Yeah.
So, I think that question kind of translates not just to 3-on-3, but really with sports in general, or just like when we're trying to grow in our craft and get to the highest of levels. I think there, at least as I've kind of started to see it and getting to see, basketball on the elite side of things. Like, I'm not saying I feel very blessed to be a part of it. I feel very lucky. I don't know what I did to ever get so lucky to be in these rooms with these players, but getting to be around NBA and WNBA level talent and competing for gold medals, it's a whole other layer of commitment and professionalism. I think some of the things that really stand out to me is like when we're in film. Like, I'm a film junkie, even with our program at Lane, but the level of focus when we're in film, the level of like the questions, how invested the players are in trying to make sure they have a scout correct, and like, just I think at that level these players understand what winning's about, right? And what it entails. You have to be worthy of winning. You don't just show up, even when you're maybe the more talented team. You don't just show up and just beat teams. Like, there's a professionalism, there's a level of dedication, there's an IQ about their craft that they've been honing for a very long time. And that's clearly a separator. I think that's number one. I think the level of, like, there's something that every one of those players on those 3-on-3 teams, and even the 5-on-5 teams, there's something that they've done that has separated them from the pack, so to speak, to have the opportunity to get invite to represent your country at that level, right? Yeah. And just looking at some of those players, I think they're very, very aware of who they are. They're very, very confident in their own skin, so to speak. They know what they bring to the table. I think sometimes, like, if you're an elite level scorer, right, and you come into a camp and it's a 5-on-5 camp and there's a lot of players there, like, well, if I'm an elite level scorer, I need to go score, right? I think with the 3-on-3 thing, like, if you're an elite level scorer, inevitably the ball is going to find you at a certain point. Like, I think of, like, that first team we had on the men's side, we had Keontae George, right, who just scored 30 2 nights ago in summer league. He was a great rookie. Kyle Filipowski, a dominating 7-footer who can shoot it with all these skills. Grady Dick with the Raptors, who's another elite level athlete. Eric Daly, who's at UCLA now. All those guys can score, and they were the man for their respective teams, but they didn't really need to just do that, right? I think at the end of the day, they were comfortable in their own skin. They knew what they did really well, but there was a sacrifice for the overall goal that they all understood. And I think that's another big separator, right? Like, if you're playing at the highest of levels, it's more than just about you and your ego. It's about the overall objective. And you want players that get that want to be a part of a team, that understand what the goals are. So I think those are the big separators.
Nice. We've had other coaches on, and they talked who are big proponents of 3-on-3 basketball, and they've integrated it into their high school program. How have you specifically integrated 3x3 or 3-on-3 basketball into your program at Lane Tech?
Yeah, we do way more than ever 3-on-3 breakdown stuff, even in the 5-on-5 season during practice. Almost all of the teaching we do now is in a 3-on-3 setting. Like, we're teaching our our actions in our offense. We're doing it in 3-on-3 setting. We're teaching our ball screen coverage. We're doing it in 3-on-3 setting. Obviously, inevitably, we get to the 5-on-5 stuff where we're adding, if we're in horns action, we're adding the two guys in the corners and we're showing
Nice.
what the two other defenders would be doing in our rotations. But when we're teaching it, a lot of times we're teaching it in 3-on-3. When we're repping a specific action or a certain coverage, we're repping it in 3-on-3 actions. And I think obviously what that does is it focuses on the teaching point. It
Mm.
gets more players opportunities to get reps because now we're breaking up to different baskets and have assistants doing different baskets. So, hey, we're teaching very generic. We're teaching a switching ball screen coverage. Well, we've got 6 players at this basket. We've got 6 players at this basket. Some years we've had up to 17, 18 players in our program. We might have 3 baskets of 6 players, all maximizing reps now instead of, hey, we got all 18 guys on one
Yeah.
basket. And like, no, like you have to break things down. So that's the obvious one. We do 3-on-3 tournaments to break up the monotony of our season like during the season.
Mm.
Like, all right, hey, maybe we just had a tough loss. We need to like regroup and get ready for a game in 2 days. Tomorrow's going to be very heavy on scout, but today, instead of like a normal practice, we're just going to go compete. Let's remember why we love basketball. Let's just go
Nice.
compete with each other. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that's helped. It breaks up the monotony, especially in the dog days of the 5-on-5 season, the middle of January in inner city Chicago where there's snow on the ground and it's gray and it's freezing cold.
Yeah.
Yo, let's have some fun today. Let's go compete. Let's remember why we love this game.
I love it.
And
I
then
love that.
obviously in the off season, man, like I said, we do 3-on-3 tournaments for open gyms. And I'm going to be honest with you, we've had a few players in our program that are Division I caliber players. We've had a lot of college coaches in our gyms at 6 a.m. to watch our open gyms, and they're coming in like we're talking about pretty good programs. And they're coming in expecting to watch normal 5-on-5 pickup, and we're doing a 3-on-3 tournament.
Yeah.
And I was nervous at first, like how would they? They loved it. They're watching the guy they're there to see in a very
Mm.
specific setting, right? Like, yeah, you want to see him get up and down. You've definitely seen this guy get up and down in 5-on-5 with a.
Yeah.
They're seeing him in a little bit different setting, which has helped their. I think it's helped our players' recruitment. So something to consider as well. But anyway,
Do you have any advice for, I guess, high school coaches who are considering incorporating 3-on-3 into their training regimen?
I think it's a must. I mean, the advice is, I think if you're not already doing 3-on-3 breakdown in your 5-on-5 practices, I think you're missing something. I think just for the number one priority is like maximizing reps for your players. Like I think we did like a breakdown, like of one of the drills that we do, right? Like if we did it with 5-on-5, like the number of reps that a player would get if we did a 4-minute drill over the course of 70 practices throughout the season versus if you do it a 3-on-3 drill, the number of reps throughout a 70 practice season, like talking about hundreds and hundreds of reps that players are missing out on for a specific teaching point, right? Like obviously if you're a 5-on-5 coach, you have to play 5-on-5 in
Yeah.
practice. I don't think we're saying that that's not the priority, but you have to get breakdowns. You have to do short-sighted games and 3-on-3 breakdowns in your practices. But the other part of it is I think if you're truly incorporating like FIBA 3-on-3, I think it's a cool way, like we said, to break up the monotony, to get your players remembering like, yo, we just had a really crappy loss to a conference rival at home. Guys are feeling sorry for themselves. They're upset. They're pissed off. Sorry, they're upset. Yo, today, let's go compete, man. Let's go have
Yeah.
some fun. Let's. And we're still working on all the stuff we need to work on, right? Like, hey, to on the dead ball stuff, you have to run one of our actions, right? Like if we have a horn set, boom, 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 you have to initiate with that, right?
Yeah.
Like you could put in your own rules, but they're playing, they're competing, and they're having fun. So that would, I mean, I think the advice is you got to get to it. I think you're missing the mark if you're not.
Nice. I'll have you do a little commercial for me after this podcast. All right, so we got the big three. We got FIBA 3x3, the World Cup, FIBA 3x3 involved in the Olympics this year, which I'm super excited about. I've been watching the World Cup, and so the build up to the Olympics it's got me really excited.
Oh yeah,
And you got the newly announced Unrivaled League coming up, Breonna Stewart's and Afisa Collier's
yeah.
league that they made up. So you see like the resurgence in the popularity of 3-on-3 basketball in the U.S. Where do you see it going? I mean, I think they're taking the right steps, but where can we realistically see 3-on-3 in the next few years in the
Yeah.
U.S.?
I mean, that's a question. It's above my pay grade because I'm not in the rooms where this conversations are happening. But I've gotten to know some of the people in those rooms,
Yeah,
and I've gotten to see the trajectory of where it's going. And I feel like at the end of the day, on the women's side, you've had some real star power, which helps, right? On the men's side, and I don't mean any disrespect to the men that are representing us because those are stars in their own right. They're
oh yeah,
unbelievable players, and but they're not guys who have really lasted in the NBA, so they're not household names per se. I mean, Jimmer Fredette kind of is if you're a
mm.
basketball person,
I think
but I
you have to
think
be us old to.
right,
I mean,
right, exactly. But I think at the end of the day, I think it's really growing. I think what's cool about it is the accessibility to it. You don't need an organized AAU travel deal to
yes,
go play. Like you can literally walk out to the outdoor court across the street and organize and play it on your own. So there's that level of it. I think with more and more 3-on-3 leagues, to your point, popping up, not just on the professional level, not just on the entertainment side with the big three, right? Like, which is
yeah,
cool to watch. You're seeing former NBA players in these settings still hooping. But I think even at the grassroots level, like what you're trying to do, right? You're getting 3-on-3 leagues and exposure to younger players. It's growing, and I think it's going to kind of become what youth level basketball should essentially be, where we're teaching it and they're competing in a 3-on-3 setting for the application. And then as they grow, they're getting into the 5-on-5 scene. Maybe as they're getting into the 5-on-5 scene, they decide that 3-on-3 is still the road they want to go, and that becomes more of a 3-on-3 track. Or maybe they do both until they get to high school or college, and then they kind
yeah,
of decide what their track is. But it's just more opportunity when you really think about the longevity of it. It's more opportunity for players to play professionally.
yes,
There's more opportunity for players to stay around the game, which should be the goal. Basketball is a beautiful sport. We love it. And I think like I even had a point guard a few years ago, and I got him involved with the 3-on-3 stuff. And his team won a Midwest regional from our high school that got them to the national championships out in Colorado Springs. And he was my point guard at my high school, but they won it fair and square, so he got to be out there. And he was a guy that could have been a Division II point guard, and he decided to go to a Big 10 school just for his edge. He's a very smart kid. Just decided he like wanted to get his degree done. But I remember having a very real conversation, like like okay, you're not playing Division I college basketball. You could have been playing Division II. Like you can stay around this game now. Now you're 18 or older. You can start getting involved and trying to play in these events and these qualifiers, and maybe get a chance to go play basketball across the world playing FIBA 3-on-3. And it was like, man, that was never a conversation up until what 5-6 years ago. But now it's
yeah,
a very real conversation. So um, obviously, I think the best in the world, they're growing, they're getting into the 5-on-5 track. But I think there's a lot of people who love this game and they can stay around the game at a high level.
yeah.
And they can decide, like you said, you love hooping 3-on-3. There's some people who are going to decide, like I'd rather go play more 3-on-3, and there's opportunity and access for me now to do so.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I do think that they are taking the right steps. The only thing I wish is that, so I like what they did with the men's 3x3 team playing at halftime during
mhm.
the one of the US games. I just wish that was on, somewhere streaming live, or maybe I just wasn't aware of it, but like I had to watch clips of it. So, but I do think they're taking the right steps and it's just going to, you just got to keep exposing these young, especially the kids. I think just exposing kids to it. A lot of the
100%.
events that we talked about here, they're usually kind of aimed towards adults, and it's usually for like, a pot of money or whatever. But
Right.
I do think focusing more on the youth and development and getting kids in these, I love what you said earlier about, you think, younger kids especially should be playing 3-on-3 versus 5-on-5 just for development's sake. So
I mean, I've seen it as a high school coach for 20 years. I have 3 children of my own who are 12, 8, and 4, right? Like,
mhm,
there's no reason my 8-year-old should be playing 5-on-5 at all. Like, at all. Like, I won't put him in any 5-on-5 leagues. I'm going to teach him the game. I might put him in some of the biddy ball that they do at their school. But as he's growing, if there's a 3-on-3 league, like, I'm getting him in that. And
yeah,
and I think if he then decides that I want to get more competitive, maybe there's some competitive 3-on-3 things I can keep him in. But as he gets into middle school, maybe it's time to play AAU and travel, right? Or my daughter as well. My daughter's about to come to camp with me next week. She's 11, going to be 12.
yeah,
I don't know that she should have been playing 5-on-5 in third, fourth, fifth grade. I think
yeah.
if there was a 3-on-3 league, I would have put her in that over the 5-on-5 league. So
Okay. Last question. What and this could this could be for 5-on-5 or any sport in general. It doesn't have to be 3-on-3. But I wanted to take advantage of having someone with your accolades on the podcast and ask you this question. If you can give one piece of advice to aspiring young basketball players, football players, any young athlete, what would it be?
Um, it's a great question. I'll try. I kind of two little things. I think number one, um, there are going to be peaks and valleys, right? If you love sports, um, that's how it goes. And I think sometimes when you're young and you don't necessarily see the results you're looking for, it can be very easy to shut down and then try to find the next. Like I think number one, you got to find something you love to do. And I think when you find a sport that you can love and you can have it be a part of your life, it's not just about winning and losing games. It's about your growth as a human being. What basketball has done for the man that I am, like I am the person that I am. All these tools that I have in my tool belt are because of basketball. The type of student I was in high school was and in college was because of what basketball taught me. The type of father I am and the way I build habits and the way I'm self-disciplined, the way I wake up at 5:30 and read every morning, the way I work out, it's because of what I was taught through basketball. And I think we have to remember the end game through sport, right? Like you might not all get to the NBA, you might not get a full ride to play Division I basketball, but you can be a lifer in the sport and you can use the sport to help you become a better person. And I think that's my big thing as a father right now. I just want my kids involved with sports. They don't have to be pros. They don't have to go score 30 points. I don't care about any of that. I just want the teamwork and the life skills that come from it. So I think like to a really young person listening, like stay involved with sport. You're getting exercise, you're getting life skills, and just try to find a sport that you can really sink your teeth into and enjoy and stay around it. But then additionally, what I would say is that as you do grow in the sport, I think it's really important to put yourself around mentors, around people who have done it before you or done it the way you want to do it yourself. Through playing and even with me with coaching, like I through playing when I was young, I had my older cousin, right, and I learned a lot from him, and he beat the crap out of me my whole childhood. But like early on, I was so enraged. I would come upstairs crying and screaming, punching my pillows. My parents were worried, like I had a temper because I could not beat him. And I think at the time there was an animosity there, but over time I really learned that it was out of love that he was trying to help me become better than he was. Right? He was trying to help me
Yeah.
grow in the game. And so he was a mentor for me as a player. And then as I've gotten older, finding other players that I can reach out to and ask questions, it helped. And then as a coach, like, come on, man, like you're a mentor for me. Like there's mentors all over the place, like people who are doing it the way you want it to be done. Go ask questions, study them, read. There's podcasts everywhere. Listen to
Mhm.
podcasts. Stay a student of what you're trying to do with your craft and be a lifelong learner. I think that would be the big piece of advice.
Man, you gave me some life advice there.
Yeah.
All right, so now we get to the fun part of the. I always like to end the podcast. I'm sure you've done this before. Some rapid fire
Oh
questions.
boy. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't prepare you for this one. This was
Oh no.
these will be quick questions. They're fun questions. You'll give an answer. Like I'm not going to give you this one, of course, but who's the greatest basketball player of all time?
Dang.
Uh, that's too easy for you. I won't give you my LeBron versus MJ question.
Oh, there's a lot of that. Yeah.
But you have 12 seconds to start answering in honor of the FIBA 3x3 shot clock.
Love it.
I'm gonna throw these questions at you, and just first thing that pops in your head. All right. Best advice you've ever received as a coach?
Be yourself. Be your authentic self.
Love it. I love that. Favorite basketball movie?
No one's gonna like this one. I love Blue Chips. It's an old school movie. Penny and
Oh,
Shaq. Love it. I just love that movie. And Above the Rim's a close second. Those are my
Above
two.
the Rim's okay. The acting was better in Above the Rim than Blue
Yeah,
Chips, but
for sure. For sure.
all right, this one might be a little harder for you. Who wins a game of one-on-one, past you or present you?
Well, what is what is the past me? Is it college me? Is it like high
Oh,
school me?
I guess let's go. We can go. We can go high school senior you.
Me right now would beat me high school. I'm not as in great shape, but I just know way, way more.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah. I was going over athleticism versus
Yeah.
our old man knowledge here.
Right.
All right, and all right, so and I asked this last one to every guest here, and I'm gonna try to keep you from choosing all Bulls players, but you're perfect. Your perfect 3x3 team. You get 3 players and 1 sub.
Man. Okay.
Oh,
I
past or
think
present. Past or
past or
present, by the
present,
way.
all time.
Past
I
or
was
present,
gonna ask
all
that.
time. Yeah.
I think to me the number one player that I would pick in this setting is Kevin Durant, and I think I would pick him just because of. I mean, he's obviously. I think he's one of the greatest scorers to ever play the game, but he can score at all 3 levels. He's just such an
Yeah.
elite shooter. You could post him. He can get his own shot. He can shoot over the top of any defense, and he's also no one gives him credit for his length and the kind of shot blocker he was in Golden State. So I would go Kevin Durant. Um, Man, it's hard not to just say Mike
Go
LeBron.
ahead. I mean,
No,
I was trying to keep you from getting all Bulls players. So you can't
yeah,
choose Jordan, Pippen, and you
right.
know,
See, I think what I've learned though, I mean, truthfully, like if you start trading twos for ones the entire game, if you don't have shooting, I
Mhm.
think you can get yourself into trouble. Um, but like also, you have to have dogs. You have to have dogs. Like if you in FIBA, it is physical, and 3-on-3, it is way more physical. So I mean, you have to go Mike. I mean, I'm not going to not
Yeah,
go
go
Mike.
ahead.
You have to go
I
Mike.
have him on my team.
Yeah. I think you have to go LeBron. LeBron is the greatest
Okay.
specimen to ever play the game ever, and he's going to go defend and lock down and rebound and get you what you need. He's shooting it right now at a better clip he's ever shot it, man.
Which is
So
unbelievable.
it's
That's
unbelievable, right?
yeah.
And then, man, oh,
Make
you,
this one. This one's your.
I
This
know.
might be your key player right here.
I don't have a whole lot of like length, but you don't necessarily. I mean, I think you have shot blockers with KD and LeBron. And I mean, if someone throws a Shaq at me, right, we're trading twos for ones. I think we're beating that team.
No one
Right?
has chosen Shaq.
Yeah.
I will say your boy Jeff Steinis does have Olajuwon on his team.
See, I remember we had this conversation, but like, is Elijah shooting the three?
Well,
He's shooting a 15-footer,
I
right?
know you're
So,
right, and
so that's why I'm
he's
going
gonna be a liability
KD.
on defense.
Yeah, I'm going KD. I'm
Yeah.
going LeBron. I'm going Mike. And this is kind of a cop out too, but I'm going with another Stone Cold killer. I'm going Kobe. Like I think you got
Okay.
killers at every spot.
I
We
like
got
it.
guys who can switch, and it's like okay, if you're going to trade two for ones, we're going to beat you. So
I
I'm just going
like
with killers.
I like the LeBron pick because I think there is a you could have almost too many scores and then he kind of can be the initiator a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and you have your automatic buckets with KD and Kobe. So that's a very strong team. That might have been the best team that so we have some people trying to be different. So
Right.
we do have a Dale Ellis out there. We
Yeah.
do have a Michael Cooper out there. So
Sure. And I mean, how
you
do you
know,
not pick Steph like the best shooter ever, right? But I
yeah.
just feel like if you go size consistently across the board,
Yeah, who's
guys that
he?
can
Yeah.
guard,
King,
yeah,
you have to think about defense also.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's a good team.
yeah.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your insights and experience with us. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share to our listeners about 3x3 basketball, life? I mean, you already kind of gave your advice to athletes. Anything you want to go here?
I'll just close with like number one, kudos to you. I feel like growing this game is for the betterment of basketball, not just 3-on-3. It's like you don't um, you don't lose any light by shedding light on somebody else, right? Like your candle doesn't lose its flame by lighting another candle. And I think like we have to stop thinking of 3-on-3 versus 5-on-5 like they are different sports in their own unique ways, but growing basketball in our country, I think there's space for both of these entities to coexist at a really high level.
Mhm.
And I don't think anyone in the world has really figured out how to do that like what USA is doing now. I think we're late to the 3-on-3 game and we're making up ground very fast. So I think that that's something we all have to understand. I think teaching youth through 3-on-3 is really important. It's going to only help the 5-on-5 game. And I think inevitably having professional 3-on-3 and 3-on-3 leagues is going to help players stay around the sport, which is also just going to continue the love for the 5-on-5 as well. Like I think that all kind of just works together. So I think that that's something I just kind of leave you with. Like if you're someone listening to this and thinks I got to pick only 3-on-3 or no 3-on-3, if I want to be a great 5-on-5 player. I can't spend time doing 3-on-3. Like, no, I don't think that
Yeah.
those things are true. So
Yeah.
that's what I'll
Oh,
leave.
I love it, Coach. I love it. Thank you again for joining
Yeah.
us. Hope to have you on again. I have so many questions I want to ask you, but I know I'm respecting everyone's time. So thanks again for joining us.
No, I love it. Thank you for having me.